Suspense. This is the Man in Black. Here again to introduce Columbia's program, Suspense. Our star this evening is Miss Maureen O'Hara, whom you've seen rise to stardom in Hollywood within the short space of a year. Her performances in the 20th Century Fox production, How Green Was My Valley, then more recently in The Immortal Sergeant, and now currently in the RKO production, This Land Is Mine, have given her an enviable place in the ranks of America's new film favorites. Miss O'Hara makes her first appearance on our Suspense stage tonight as the heroine of A Study in Homicidal Mania, The White Rose Murders by Cornell Woolridge, which is tonight's tale of suspense. He stood there waiting. He knew that presently they would come out of the second-rate dance hall, out into the dimly lit street. He listened a while and smiled as the orchestra played that tune inside. And then they came out, the two girls, and still he waited, close enough to hear what they were saying.
Well, I'll see you at the office tomorrow, Sally.
Oh, I don't know how I'll get up. It's after 1 o'clock. 6 hours sleep. Oh, I'll be dead tomorrow.
Me too. Oh, gosh. I gotta have at least 8 hours or I'm no good at all.
I wish I had someone to walk me to the bus. It's 4 long blocks.
I'll walk you down, Sally.
Oh, don't bother. We go in different directions.
It's no trouble. Really, I don't mind.
But really, it's not necessary.
Come on.
In the narrow alley that divides the dance hall from an ugly office building, he stood smiling. Just a little inside the alley, he stood stiffly against the wall, his head back, eyes closed, arms straight down, and in his left hand, a white rose.
Well, all right then, Sally. Good night.
Good night, Joan. See you in the morning. Oh, I hope I don't have to wait long for the bus. Who are you? Keep away. Keep away from me. Let me go. Let me go.
The girl is dead. Tenderly, the figure straightens her hair and gently places the limp body on the ground. Then he opens her clenched fist, and carefully, so that the thorns will not bruise her flesh, he places in her hand the white rosebud.
Pardon me, my good man. Is it true that you are the famous detective Terence Riley?
Huh? Oh, Jenny, I didn't see you come in.
Well, now that I'm here, how about offering to buy a cup of coffee for the girl you're going to marry? You can never get up enough nerve to ask her.
Oh, it's no use, Jenny. I guess we better call it quits. I'm just a dick on the homicide squad, and that's all I'll ever be.
And I'm a rich debutante.
We don't belong together.
Oh, you've been reading too many of those romantic stories, Terry. What is it this time? What's wrong?
They call him the White Rose Killer, but he's got to be caught. There's a general demotion coming on if he isn't, and that's all I need to get back into uniform.
Oh, don't worry, darling. You always look good in blue.
Yeah. Just to match the way I feel.
Tell me more about the White Rose Killer. What's he like?
That's the stumble. He could be anybody. No one's ever seen him except the dead, and they don't talk about it afterwards. Just slips out of the shadows and kills and then slips back again.
How many has he murdered?
4. And he's not through yet. It's going to be one of those chain things if he's allowed to keep on.
Are you sure it's always the same one?
Yeah, that part of it we're sure of. The same touch, the same way of operating every time.
How do you know that?
Well, it's a rose. A white rosebud. A death rose. Puts it into each victim's hand after he kills her.
Her?
Yep. It's always a woman. A young woman between 19 and 23.
What's behind it? Do you have any idea?
Well, I'm not sure. But here's what I figured out. You know what a rose stands for. Symbolically, I mean.
Why, yes, it's the flower of love. the white rose, the bud, has another meaning. Purity, loyalty, devotion, and especially it stands for a young girl.
Oh, that's right. And that's about the way I see it.
So maybe it's a double cross, committed against our murderer by some young girl whom he worshipped and who betrayed his faith in her.
You ought to be a detective, not me.
Thanks, darling. I've got a very fine teacher.
Sweet. There's another thing. The murders were all committed near places where there was music, dance halls and cabarets and the like. There's a song that brings back the original shock that, gives him the final push over into the darkness. As far as we can figure out, it's the beer barrel polka.
Well, how does he commit the murder? Is it always the same way?
Always. Strangulation between the hands, with the thumb into the windpipe to keep his victims from crying out.
But isn't there anything else you know about him?
No, that's why it's so hopeless. He's insane, of course, but there's only this one phase to his insanity. Probably perfectly normal in appearance and behavior. You could pass him on the street and even know it. Well, it's only when he sees someone vaguely like the girl he loved and hears that song that the one defective wire in him is jangled and short circuit.
But, Terry, the flowers, don't the flowers tell you? He must get them somewhere you could trace.
We don't know where he gets them. Maybe he steals them or...
Terry, what if you were the one to get him?
Well, it would mean a citation and a promotion.
And then all the things that stand between us would disappear? We could get married?
Well, the chances would be a lot better anyway. But what chance have I? Everyone in the department has been working their heads off for weeks and they've all failed.
Uh-huh. Terry, what were the girls like? The ones he killed?
Well, as I told you, they were all between 19 and 23. Their heights were pretty much the same, too. They were all tall girls, around 5 feet 6 or 7. A little taller than you. And all dark-haired.
How did they wear their hair?
Why, they... Say, what is this?
Oh, nothing, darling. Just interested. How did they wear their hair?
Well, from what I remember, they wore it sort of loose and curly down the back.
I suppose each one had a resemblance to that long-dead love of his.
That's probably it. Well, anyway, that's how the record stands. And we're all waiting for it to happen again.
I see. Terry, I'd like to go home now.
I shouldn't have told you all that stuff. I've given you the creeps.
Oh, come on, Terry. Take me home.
Later, Jenny stands by the window in her room, looking out, thinking. She doesn't move for a long time. Then suddenly, quickly, she goes to her closet and begins to rummage through her many pairs of shoes. Carefully, she picks one pair with 3-inch heels.
5'6" or 7.
Then she walks quickly to the dresser, opens a drawer, takes out a comb, and starts redoing her hair.
Worn loose and curly down the back. Well, here we go. Edward.
Yes, miss?
Is the car ready?
Yes, Miss Virginia. I've been waiting for you.
Let's go before Mother sees me.
Your mother's been looking for you, miss.
I hope you didn't tell her.
No, Miss Virginia, I didn't.
Good. Come on, Edward.
Where do you wish to go, Miss Virginia?
The Starlight Dance Hall on Grove and 2nd Street.
The Starlight, miss?
Yes, Edward, that's the place.
I wouldn't go there unescorted if I were you, miss. It's one of the worst places in the city. Has a very bad reputation.
The Starlight Dance Hall, Edward.
Very good, miss. Very good.
Jenny walks slowly around the low light of dance hall. A tall figure leaning against a pillar watches her intently as he idly smokes a cigarette. He doesn't seem to belong there. His clothes don't have the nattiness of a dance lover. Jenny pauses not far from him. Deliberately, he throws his cigarette on the floor, steps on it, and slowly walks over to her.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
You're not with anyone, are you?
Oh, no, I'm alone.
I thought so. I've been watching you all the time.
Have you?
I haven't seen you dance yet.
I don't know anyone here.
How about dancing with me, then?
All right.
Come on. Let's go out on the floor.
Do you come here often?
No. I never go to the same place twice.
You don't? Why?
I'm always looking for new faces. I'm restless.
Do you find the faces you're looking for?
Listen. Listen to that song. I like that. I like it very much.
Yes, it is a nice song.
You know, you remind me of someone I used to know. I'm trying to think who.
I do?
Yeah. You mind if we stop dancing and go over and get a drink?
No, let's go.
Well, then let's get down for some air. We can come back in a few minutes. Come on.
But...
We'll be back before the music starts.
Oh, you're hurting my arm.
Am I? I'm sorry. Fresh air smells good, doesn't it?
It's so dark here. Let's go back.
You're not scared, are you?
Oh, no, it's
Let's walk
just
down
that
this alley and back.
Oh, please.
No, you...
Let me go.
Thanks. That's a lovely necklace, beautiful.
Why, you're just a cheap...
Shut up.
All you wanted was my necklace.
So long, beautiful.
Look out.
What's the matter?
Behind you, look.
Holy... She's dead. A girl. Murdered.
With a white rosebud in her hand.
Well, Jenny, happened again last night. Just like the other times. The girl strangled in an alley and a white rose in her hand.
Any news of the killer?
No. He might just as well float through the air for all the trace he leaves.
He must have bought the flower upstairs in the dance hall. He must have been there earlier, bought it, and saved it
No,
until...
there was only one rose sold up there all night. And to a man who had a different girl with him. We had the flower girl at... How did you know that they sold flowers there? I didn't tell you.
Well, I must have read it somewhere.
You couldn't have. It wasn't in any of the papers. No details were given, just the statement that an unidentified body was found.
Well, I just imagined that they'd sell flowers in a place like that.
Well, I'm glad you don't go near those dance halls. Why, with this nut running around loose...
Don't bother about that. We'd better catch this killer. And fast.
Where do you get this wee stuff? To hear you talk, you'd think that you were on the case, too.
Wouldn't you think so? To hear me talk?
Again, Jenny tours the low dives, hunting for the White Rose Killer. Her search carries her to the waterfront. And as she walks past each dingy bar, she listens to the jukebox music. A little after midnight, she passes a dirty windowed saloon. The thin music catches her ear. She pauses and listens, her eyes alive for some sign, some indication of the person she's looking for. Then suddenly her body becomes rigid as her eyes fall upon a figure huddled in the shadows.
Someone's watching me.
Slowly she starts to walk up the street. Behind her, the heavy tread of a man's footsteps keep pace with hers. It's a quiet tread, unhurried but deliberate. For several blocks, it keeps the exact distance. Jenny starts to walk faster.
I've got to know if he's really following me.
The man quickens his pace. Jenny starts across the street. The man follows. She's sure now, sure that the man is following her. She fumbles for something in her purse. Her hand closes around a gun.
If he tries anything, I'll shoot.
You in any trouble, lady?
Oh, no, officer. It's all right. You scared him away.
Scared who away?
Oh, just a man who wanted to bring me flowers. That's all.
Well, he brought you one anyhow, lady.
What do you mean?
Right there on the ground, right by your feet. A white rose.
Coffee, Mabel.
Sure, coming right up. Here you are. Terry.
Hello, Jenny. Sit down.
Thank you.
Say, what's the matter with you?
Look, darling, read the gossip column in this paper.
What daughter of a socially prominent family is that way about a detective and waits for him outside the station house in her limousine every night? Private chauffeur and all. But Mama says no. That's not so funny.
Oh, they held a big family war council over me just now. Indian powwow, feathered headdress and everything.
They did, huh? Well, what'd they decide?
Oh, I was asked to give my word that I wouldn't see you anymore. I refused, of course, so I'm to be exiled.
Where to?
Our summer home. It's just a few hours out of town, but I'll be there all by myself, just with Mrs. Crosby, the housekeeper.
Oh, maybe they're right. Why don't you listen to them?
Are you on their side, too?
No. When are you leaving?
Right away. Edwards is driving me out. I just slipped out to let you know. Here's the address and phone number of the place in case you want to reach me. Don't lose it.
I won't.
Well, what's new and exciting about the White Rose Killer?
Our famous lover of flowers? We're still trying to track him down. I suppose I'll go looking for him at the flower show that's just opened.
Oh, a flower show just opened?
Yeah.
Well, goodbye now. I'll be seeing you. What floor is the flower show, please?
3rd floor, miss.
3, please.
Third floor.
Where's the rose display, please?
To your left, over there. See where the man in the gray coat is?
In the gray coat? Oh, yes, thank you. They are lovely, aren't they?
Oh, you startled me.
I'm sorry. I was just admiring the roses.
Oh, yes, the nicest flowers here. I just can't keep my eyes off them.
Yes, you can feel that way about some flowers.
And that's the way I feel about white roses.
Have you been here long?
I really don't know. I suppose so. You see, I've come here every day since the show opened. I like to be near the roses, the white roses.
Those big ones are nice.
No, I like the little ones best, the little tightly curled rosebuds. They're so little and innocent. Oh, well, I really better be going. Are you going down?
Yes.
Down, please.
Here, miss, I took a rose for you.
Thank you. It's lovely.
Would you care to have a drink with me?
Why, yes, thank you.
I know of a little place a block or two down there. They have nice music. We'll go there.
All right, whatever you say.
This is it.
Where's the music?
A nickel in the jukebox does it. Any special song you'd like?
No, go ahead and pick one.
Okay. There we are. Oh, that's my favorite song. Reminds me of a girl I used to know.
Oh, excuse me, I want to powder my nose. I'll be right back. Do you mind?
No, of course not.
Seventh Police Precinct. Sergeant Thomas speaking.
Hello, is Terry Riley there?
Just a moment, I'll see.
Please hurry, it's important.
No, sorry, miss. Terry Riley's not here just now.
Oh, will you tell him that I can't keep that date with him? Goodbye.
Do you always go to the phone booth when you want to powder your nose?
Why, I had to make a call.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm afraid I'll have to leave you.
Oh, wait. Let me come with you.
I'm sorry, miss, but I've got other things to do.
Oh,
What's the matter?
that car. Someone that knows me. Let's get away from here.
That's just what I'm going to do. So long, lady.
Wait. Please don't go.
Miss Virginia. Miss Virginia. I'm sorry, Miss Virginia, but I must speak to you for a minute.
Oh, Edwards, what did you want?
I'm sorry, miss. You'd better come with me at once. I've been looking for you everywhere. Your mother's been taken seriously ill.
Mother? Where is she?
She's out at the country place, miss. I drove her there shortly before dinner. She wanted to pay you a surprise visit.
Oh.
I believe the shock of not finding you there upset her, miss.
Is she very bad?
She had the doctor with her when I left. Mrs. Crosby has gone away for the day. Your mother needs you, miss.
Well, let's go. Hurry, Edwards, please.
Right, miss.
Where is Mother, Edwards?
In her room, miss. You'd better hurry.
Mother, it's Ginny. Is the doctor in there with you? Mother? Why, there's no one here. The room's empty. The bed hasn't been touched. Edwards, what are you doing?
Merely playing a song, miss. A favorite of mine.
A favorite?
Yes, Miss Virginia.
Where's Mother?
She's in the city, miss.
You lied to me.
I'm afraid I did, Miss Virginia.
Why are you locking the door?
You know why, Miss Virginia.
It can't be. You're not the
White Rose killer? But you see, I am, Miss Virginia. Driving you and your family around day after day. Sitting there right in front of you all the time. It was amusing to watch you hunting for me. Hunting for someone you saw several times a day.
But it can't be. You're not insane.
Of course not. Who said I was?
Edwards, you know I'm not the girl who betrayed you.
Yes, I know that.
Well, then unlock the door and let me out. Please, Edwards.
I've killed 5 times. I've never regretted it. I'm going to kill you, Miss Virginia.
Why, Edwards? Why?
Because you've been so clever. Too clever. You made yourself look like her, the girl who deceived me. I could have killed you the day you first went out looking for me, but I had to be careful.
Oh.
I almost caught you that night at the waterfront, the night I dropped the White Rose when that police car came.
Edwards, I've never done you any harm.
Your sweetheart, Terry. He loves you, doesn't he?
Yes.
That's good. Because now you won't be able to deceive him like my girl deceived me.
Keep away, Edwards. Keep away, or I'll...
You thought you'd use your gun, eh? Well, don't think I was fool enough to overlook that. I took your gun out of your purse.
It won't do you any good to kill me, Edwards. I didn't have anything to do with it.
No, and you're not going to have a chance to break another man's heart like she broke mine.
Jenny, where are you?
Terry!
It won't do you any good to call to him. He can't get in here without breaking down the door.
Keep away from me.
It will
Terry!
be too late then, because I'm going to kill you now.
Jenny, where are you?
Terry!
Just let me get my hands on that pretty white throat.
Oh, keep away. Keep away from me. Terry!
Jenny, are you all right?
Yes, Terry, I'm all right.
Oh, take it easy. Here, sit down.
Oh, Terry, I was so scared. There was nobody here but Edwards and I. How did you know where I was?
Oh, it was simple. You were supposed to meet me at the coffee shop. You never broke an appointment, and when you didn't show up, I called the number you gave me. You told me the housekeeper was here all the time, and when there was no answer, I got suspicious and came down. Besides, when I got a message down at headquarters that you had to break a date with me, I knew something was wrong. Are you sure you're all right?
Yes, I'm... Terry, look. On the floor beside Edwards.
A white rose. Must have fallen out of his pocket.
That was meant for me. Oh, Terry, it's all crushed.
Yeah. Crushed and dead.
Just like the White Rose Killer.
And so closes The White Rose Murders, starring Maureen O'Hara. Tonight's tale of Suspense. This is your narrator, the Man in Black, who, speaking for Columbia, hopes you have enjoyed.
Suspense. This is the Man in Black, here again to introduce Columbia's program, Suspense. Heading our Star Hollywood cast tonight is Mr. Warren William, and with him is Mr. Eric Blore. No fewer than 9 times have these two gentlemen appeared together in screen thrillers based on the adventures of one of the most celebrated characters of modern crime fiction. This familiar character will speak to you now for the first time on the air, as with the story called Murder Goes for a Swim, and the performances of Warren William as Michael Lanyard and Eric Blore as Jameson. We again hope to keep you in suspense.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to introduce myself. Nowadays, meeting me on the street, you'd most likely recognize me as Michael Lanyard, an author of sorts. But if you'll not be too free with the information, because I've been at some pains to allow bygones to be bygones, I was once known rather well by quite a different name. And there are still times when I find myself obliged, or should I say forced, to return to that character, to resort to the somewhat questionable talents of the lone wolf. As a matter of fact, my presence here this evening is prompted by an uncontrollable desire to reminisce a little. Eh, Jameson?
Oh, quite right, Mr. Lanyard. And if you'll pardon a gentleman's gentleman for saying so, sir, playing nip and tuck with the police, meeting lovely ladies, you pilfering an occasional gem, I living, so to speak, from hand to pocket. Ha ha! Those were the days, sir.
Yes, those were the days.
Absconding at times. Perhaps a touch of embezzlement here and there.
Now, hold on, Jameson. If we're going to reminisce in public, I suggest we confine our recollections to our later period, when the lone wolf had become a gentleman of leisure and used his talents in the interests of law and order.
In that case, sir, I suggest you relate the episode of our little experience at that horrible party we attended at that Long Island estate. Remember, sir?
Of course, Jameson, the Rutherford Barnes estate. If I remember correctly, the occasion was some sort of charity bazaar. We were invited for the weekend. The phone rang just as we were about to leave the apartment.
Mr. Lanyard, this is Betty Lawson. You've never heard of me before, but I know you've been invited to spend the weekend with Mr. Rutherford Barnes. Please, you must accept the invitation. Come down immediately, right now. It's just a little after 2 o'clock. And if you're not too late, the lone wolf may be able to prevent a murder.
Jameson and I arrived at the Barnes estate a bare 2 hours after we'd received the mysterious telephone message. I was introduced to all kinds of people. First, the famous gossip columnist, Ralph Clinton.
Well, Mr. Lanyard, this is indeed a surprise, and I might say a pleasant addition to our little gathering. Something always happens when you're lone wolfing around. Oh, I know, you've reformed. But a fellow can hope for a little excitement, can't he? See you later, old man.
Then I met a very, very beautiful young lady.
Oh, Mr. Lanyard, we haven't met yet. I'm Cynthia Waring. I've read all your stories and admired the ingenious way you solve those baffling mysteries. I think you're wonderful, really.
And, of course, there was our host himself, Mr. Rutherford Barnes, who had recently announced his engagement to Miss Waring.
I believe you've met just about everyone, Lanyard. That is, everyone except Bill Hodges. He's the firebrand of our little congregation. He's probably wandering around walking off the effects of the last 10 cocktails. Just make yourself comfortable.
Strangely enough, I failed to meet a Miss Betty Larson, the frightened young lady who had phoned. Anyway, the afternoon wore on through the beauty contest at which I was elected to preside as judge, and at which Miss Cynthia Waring, looking very pretty in a big picture hat and hoop skirt, was the winner. After it was over, Jameson and I managed to break away from the rest of the guests, and to escape the heat of the afternoon, we prepared ourselves for a cooling dip in the pool.
I say, Mr. Lanyard, we've been to some pretty big and fancy places in our day, but this one is really something. This Rutherford Barnes person must be really an important person.
You're quite right, Jameson. Rutherford Barnes is listed in Who's Who as the gentleman who made a fortune out of sardines. Just think, an entire estate built of sardines.
Uncanny, isn't it, sir?
Oh, Jameson.
Forgive me, sir. No more puns, I promise.
Well, I should hope so.
I say, this pool is constructed just like a miniature lake. Lilies and all that sort of thing floating on top.
Quite naturally, if you're going down for the third time, you just take a lily with you.
Oh, what a jolly thought. Well, here goes. Watch this beautiful swan dive. I say, this is most unusual. There's a sort of a mermaid lying on the bottom of the pool. And she's very pretty, sir.
Last night it was a barmaid. Today it's a mermaid.
No, but really, sir.
Well, I'm the judge in the beauty contest. I'd better go down and have a look.
Don't be away too long, sir. You remember there are lots of warmer women in the world.
Jameson, quick. Here, give me a hand.
Good heavens. It's a girl.
Quick, here, lift her out of here. Hurry.
I'm doing my best,
I'll
sir.
get up there. Here, now, let's put her down here.
You hold her there, sir. Yes,
Jameson, I'm afraid she's dead.
Well, what do you make of it, sir? What, was it an accident?
Well, I don't know. There's a pretty nasty bump on the side of her head.
Well, perhaps she slipped and hit her head as she fell.
Perhaps. But her bathing suit, not quite the style you'd put on to take a swim.
Possibly she was in the beauty contest.
Of course, that's it. The program listed 10 contestants, yet only 9 girls competed.
Meaning what, Mr. Lanyard?
Meaning, Jameson, that this poor kid was the 10th contestant. And if my hunch is correct, her name is Betty Larson.
The girl with the telephone message?
Precisely. And if her call was on the level, we did arrive too late, and she was murdered.
Mr. Lanyard!
Mr. Lanyard!
It's Mr. Barnes and Miss Waring. Take off your robe and cover up the body, Jameson.
Yes, sir.
Well, Lanyard, we've been looking all over for you, haven't we, Cynthia, dear?
Yes, of course. And I'm glad we found you, Mr. Lanyard. I've been wanting to thank you for awarding me the prize in the beauty contest this afternoon. I really didn't think that... Mr. Lanyard! There, at the edge of the pool.
Yes, it's a girl, and I'm afraid she's drowned.
Drowned? But... Oh, how horrible.
Oh, but how did it happen? Who is she?
I think she's Betty Larson. What do you think, Mr. Barnes? Here, look.
Oh, good heavens.
Rutherford, look.
Yes. Yes, that is Betty Larson. Why, I had no idea.
Then you do know the girl, Mr. Barnes.
Why, yes. As a matter of fact, only recently I recommended her for a job. She's the local telephone operator.
And the village beauty. Mr. Barnes and Miss Larson were childhood sweethearts.
Mr. Barnes, tell me, do any of the other guests know this girl? Ralph Clinton, for instance. Could our famous columnist have possibly known Miss Larson?
Well, if not in person, most certainly by telephone. You see, for the last few weeks, Miss Larson handled my personal calls.
I see. Did she ever mention the fact that there might be a murder?
Murder?
Well, you see, I received a rather strange message.
Now, look here, Lanyard. If you're insinuating that Miss Larson was murdered, you're all wrong. It's perfectly obvious. She slipped and fell into the deep end of the pool. She can't swim. We couldn't hear her cry for help over the noise of the party, so the poor girl drowned.
As simple as that, eh?
Why, of course. And I'd appreciate it if you'd be kind enough not to mention this accident to any of the other guests. There's no need to disrupt the entire weekend. I'll notify the sheriff and call the coroner, and they'll take care of everything. I think it might be a good idea, Mr. Lanyard, since you seem so certain that a murder's been committed, that you and your man remain on the premises. Our famous lone wolf may have a little explaining of his own to do. Come along, Cynthia.
Oh, I'm completely at sea, Mr. Lanyard. The sheriff seems to think the whole thing was an accident, that this Miss Betty Larson person dived into the pool and that's how she hit her head.
I doubt that, Jameson. According to Barnes, the girl couldn't swim.
Hey, buddy. Oh, I think we have company.
Buddy.
Yeah?
If you see Mr. Barnes around, I want to see him.
I think he's over at the other side of the house getting things ready for the bazaar.
Bazaar? They don't care how they celebrate a murder, do they?
If I'm not mistaken, you're Mr. Bill Hodges, eh?
Yeah. Betty Larson and I were going to get married. Everything was great until she starts going around with this society bunch. I got a few things to settle with that society crowd. Especially that keyhole peeper, Ralph Clinton.
You seem quite positive, Hodges, that your girl was murdered.
Well, what do you think it was, an accident? That girl could swim like a fish. Nothing could happen to her in the water.
Yeah, but Barnes says she couldn't swim a stroke.
I said she could swim like a fish.
But Barnes said...
Did you hear me, you little runt?
Amazing how that girl could swim.
Look here, Hodges, what makes you think Ralph Clinton had anything to do with this? Do you know you're practically accusing him of murder?
Listen, Betty stood me up twice last week. I followed her in my car, and she met Clinton both times. He was going to put her in this contest, and she was a cinch to win. He promised her. Then look what happens to her. She's dead. Murdered, I tell you.
Well, here comes Clinton now. Maybe you'd better tell him about it.
Oh, there you are, Hodges. I understand you've been looking for me.
Yeah, I have. And now I'm going to fix that pretty face of yours.
Wait a second. Here, you can't do that. Here, Jameson, help me break this up.
I will as soon as they stop punching me.
Hey, don't be a fool, Hodges. Stop it. Stop it, I say.
All right. All right, let go of me. Let go.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Lanyard. This man's a maniac.
Okay. But I'm warning you, Clinton. I'll see you again. When you ain't got your friends around.
Well, personally, I don't know whether the girl was killed or not, but if she was, our friend there, Hodges, will have a lot of explaining to do.
You mean you've got something on him, Mr. Clinton?
Well, when I was discussing the contest with Betty Larson a few days ago, she told me that Hodges had warned her not to enter it. It seems he was afraid that if she won, it might go to her head and she'd walk out on him. As a matter of fact, he told her to stay away from here.
Well, there's going to be a coroner's inquest in the morning, and I suggest that you tell this to the sheriff as soon as he returns.
Oh, why, tell that to the sheriff? Oh, no, I'd rather hate to do that. You see, Lanyard, someone in my position, I can't afford to get involved. After all, it's my business to report scandal and not get mixed up in it.
But look here, you...
Oh, tell you what, give me a chance to think it over, and I'll see you at the treasure hunt tonight.
Oh, dear. 2:00 in the morning, Mr. Lanyard. What a ghastly hour to go tramping over the ground. Must we participate in this treasure hunt?
Of course, it's all a part of the weekend. Come in.
Well, it's the witching hour, Mr. Lanyard. Here's your envelope with the clues for the treasure hunt. You'd better hurry. Everybody's ahead of you.
Thank you, Mr. Clinton. We'll catch up.
Fine. This ought to be very interesting. Seeing the lone wolf stalking down his prey.
You know very well, Clinton.
Oh, sure. I forgot. You're not the lone wolf anymore. You're just nice, innocent Mr. Lanyard. Well, good hunting. See you later.
Well, here you are, Jameson. This is our clue. Go ahead, read it.
Under the oak and under the cover, where have met many a lover, light a match and look deep down, find your clue and win your crown. I say, isn't that lovely?
Can you decipher it?
Oh, of course, sir. It means, Well...
Exactly, Jameson, the old well. That's where we'll find the next clue. Come on, let's get going. The well is down this path. It's right near the stables.
You mean when we get to the well, we find another clue?
That's right, and at the end is when we reach the treasure.
Oh, the treasure. I say, what is this treasure?
Jameson, it's unimportant what the treasure is. It might be a bag of jelly beans.
Well, it all sounds very silly to me, sir. There's the well over there. And look here. It's got a wooden cover on it, exactly like it said on the poem. Well, what do we do now?
Now, wait a minute. Oh, yes, under the cover. Light a match and look deep down. Here, I'll take this lid off and put it here. Now, you light a match, Jameson.
Right, huh?
Our second clue must be somewhere inside the well.
Right, here, just a moment.
Ah, there's the clue we're looking for. A piece of paper pinned on the wall inside the well with a big pin.
Oh, dash it all. Match went out. I'll light another one.
Oh, Jameson, hold it. Hold it. The inside of this well smells like gasoline.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does smell like it's full of...
Get away, Jameson. Blow that match out.
Are you all right, Mr. Lanyard?
Yes, and no thanks to you.
Oh, I couldn't help it, sir. If you ask me, we walked right into a trap.
And quite obviously. Here, let me help you up.
Oh, thank you, sir. Oh, if I'd had any idea... Ouch!
Well, now what's the matter?
Oh, I've been stabbed.
Well, let me see. Oh, steady, Jameson. I'll pull it out.
Oh, be careful, sir. Oh.
There we are. And very interesting.
What is it, sir?
Oh, it's that big pin. You could have been hurt quite badly.
Well, if you ask me...
Come along, Jameson. We've got work to do.
And another thing, Mr. Barnes. We don't mind playing this little treasure hunt game of yours, but it's no fun when the prize is 2 bodies, especially if they happen to be our 2 bodies.
Oh, surely it was only an accident.
I wish I could believe that, Miss Waring.
But there's no rhyme, no reason for what's been happening. If the accident at the well was another attempt at murder, then all our lives could be in danger.
Steady, Cynthia, darling. I presume you have some idea of who the murderer might be, Mr. Lanyard.
You flatter me, Mr. Barnes.
I would think you had surely lined up 1 or 2 likely suspects, Mr. Lone Wolf.
Why don't you tell them about our friend Mr. Clinton, sir?
Clinton? Oh, well, there are some mighty interesting aspects to that road company Winchell. He was meeting Betty Larson secretly. At least that's what Hodges says.
I can believe that. Clinton would stoop to anything. I didn't want to have him around, but Cynthia felt that we should cater to him for the sake of publicity for the bazaar.
Hodges also insists that Clinton arranged for Miss Larson to enter the beauty contest, and that Clinton promised her that she would win. And there's the little incident at the well.
If you ask me, Clinton is in this thing right up to his clues.
Help! Mr. Barnes! Somebody come out here, hurry!
That sounds like Hodges.
He's right out there at the side of the house.
Well, come on. We can go through these French windows.
In here, in the bushes, you better hurry.
What is it, Hodges? What's wrong?
I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't know anything about it.
Great heavens, look at Clinton.
Oh, I can't stand it. I can't stand it. What awful things are going on. No,
I don't know how it happened. I was just coming down the path. There in the bushes, he was lying right
He's
there.
done for, all right, Mr. Lanyard. Shot. Murdered.
Murdered? You did this, Hodges. You said you'd get even with Clinton. Now you've done
I tell you, I don't know anything about it. I was just walking down along the path. I don't know anything about
It's
it.
all right, Hodges. You'll have an opportunity to prove your innocence.
Don't you have some theory about all this, Mr. Lyon?
There, Miss Waring. I think I can promise you at least that there won't be any more murders. Hold the flashlight a little higher, Jameson, on the clock on the mantelpiece.
Yes, sir. Just as you say, sir. But aren't we taking a bit of a risk, Mr. Lanyard? Leaving the estate without checking with the sheriff?
Shh, quiet, Jameson. If I don't find what I'm looking for here in Clinton's apartment, I'm afraid we'll have a lot of explaining to do.
I'd just as soon we didn't go back. There's been 2 murders already, and they say things come in threes.
How interesting. Jameson, why do you think I've got you flashing the light on that clock on the mantelpiece?
Well, sir, I'm a bit rusty. I think it might be safe to say that, well, it would be safe.
Exactly, Jameson. You never fail. The safe behind the clock on the mantelpiece.
I say, I was right. Ingenious, eh, Miss Lanyard?
You have your moments. Well, it's a long time since I've operated in this fashion, but we'll see, Jameson.
If you don't mind, sir, this is like old times.
I do mind, Jameson, but unfortunately, certain situations are born of necessity.
Then allow me to compliment you, sir. You haven't lost the old touch.
No, I'm not so sure. There we are.
Not much of a haul, if you ask me. Nothing but a stack of letters and a notebook.
Let's have a look.
All that trouble just for a bundle of papers. Just a waste of good time and talent. Well, it could have been a pound of butter or a gas coupon or a back axle or...
Aha!
I say, what's so interesting?
Just the...
Did you find a clue to the murders?
Just the motive, Jameson. Just the motive.
Look here, you can't keep me here, Sheriff. All I did was find Clinton. You can't hang a guy for that.
Keep your shirt on, Hodges. Nobody moves out of this room till Lanyard shows up. If he doesn't come in 5 minutes, I'm going to put out a call and have him pulled in.
Seems to me that Mr. Lanyard has admitted his guilt by disappearing.
Well, whatever the case may be, I think you should allow me to go. After all, this is my house, and I do have guests. They might think it rather strange if their host isn't around.
Look, Mr. Barnes, party or no party, there's been a couple of murders committed around this joint, and everybody in this room is under suspicion.
Really, Sheriff? If you're going to keep us here and allow Mr. Lanyard to stay...
Good evening, Sheriff. Jameson, say good evening to the Sheriff. He's been very patient, I hope.
Good evening, sir. Constable. Sheriff.
All right, you two. You'd better make it good. Running away from the scene of the crime won't sit so well in court.
Please accept my apologies, Sheriff.
Well, now that you're here, Mr. Lanyard, perhaps we can clear up this nasty mess.
Yes. I presume you've been spending your time checking up on the murders, Mr. Lanyard.
That's right. And I've uncovered a few details which I'm sure will prove most interesting, Miss Waring.
You're wasting time, Lanyard. Somebody in this room has been running around committing murders. And I'm going to find out who it is or die
Or
trying.
die trying.
Who said that?
Oh, if it's all the same to you, Sheriff, I think I'll join the other guests.
Now, isn't that thoughtful of you? Get away from that door before you tempt me to bring the murder score up to 3.
Do as he says, Jameson. After all, you don't want to miss all the fun. In just a minute, you're going to have the pleasure of meeting the murderer.
Yes, that's just what I'm afraid of, sir.
All right, Lanyard. Let's have it.
Very well, Sheriff. First, allow me to review events from the beginning. Just as Jameson and I were leaving for Mr. Barnes's residence, we received a rather unusual telephone message. It was Betty Larson. That was about 2 p.m., wouldn't you say, Jameson?
5 minutes after 2, to be exact, sir.
Thank you. We arrived at Mr. Barnes's estate by 3:30. At 5, Jameson and I went for a swim in the pool. It was then we found Miss Larson. At what time did the coroner examine her, Sheriff?
Around 7 in the evening. But what difference does it make? The poor girl had been dead for 10 hours.
All the difference in the world, my dear fellow. Simple arithmetic will show you that it was impossible for Miss Larson to call me at 2 o'clock. At 2 o'clock, she'd already been dead for 5 hours.
Hodges, you did it. You paid someone to make that call.
You're crazy. I had nothing to do with it.
Pipe down, Hodges. Go on, Lanyard.
Sheriff, what do you think was used to murder Miss Larson?
Well,
Could this have been the weapon?
The pin. The pin, the one I fell on when the well exploded.
Yes, Jameson. Let me paint a rather gruesome picture for you, Sheriff. Miss Larson is called down to the edge of the swimming pool. Someone who poses as a friend suggests that she try on a hat. In trying it on, our murderer, pretending to assist, neatly jabs Miss Larson and thrusts the pin through the base of her brain.
Oh, how horrible. Could I examine the pin, please?
Why, of course, Mr. Barnes.
Why, it's a hat pin. Well, Cynthia, it's the one you had in the large hat you wore in that beauty contest. Cynthia, it was you.
All right, stand back, all of you.
Look here, sister, you can't get away with this.
Shut up. And listen, all of you.
I assure you I know how to handle this gun, and I'm not afraid to use it.
Cynthia,
Stand back, Hodges.
I don't get you, Cynthia. What earthly reason would you have for killing Betty? She wanted to be your friend.
That's a laugh. Listen, little boy Blue. A telephone operator sometimes hears too much for her own good. How do you think she got all those fine furs? From some boyfriend? No, she was too daffy about you, so she decided to try her hand at blackmail.
Blackmail?
That's right. Only she pushed me just a bit too far.
Why,
Get
you...
back, all of you. You, prune face.
Who? Who, me?
I don't mean your brother. Open the door. Go on, open it.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Now stand back, all of you. Ha. Very amusing picture. That's right, Mr. Lanyard. Step forward just a little. I'd like to thank you for spoiling a most delightful weekend. And here's a little something to remember me by.
Jameson, are you all right?
Yes, I think so, sir.
Oh, thank heaven.
Yeah, you did a good job, Jameson. You not only saved Mr. Lanyard from getting shot, but when you fell against this door, you also managed to knock Miss Waring colder than a doornail.
Oh, it was nothing, really.
And as for you, sister, maybe these bracelets will keep you out of trouble. Because when you come to, you're going to find yourself booked for murder.
Double murder, Sheriff. Dig the bullet out of the wall over there, and you'll find it will match the one found in Clinton's body.
Well, what do you know? Come on, Hodges, give me a hand.
Okay, Sheriff.
I can't believe it. Why, Cynthia and I had so many plans together. It's hard to believe that she could be responsible for those horrible murders.
I'm afraid she was. Mr. Barnes, this is Mr. Clinton's notebook. Several canceled checks and a few letters. Look them over, and you'll discover that your dream girl, Miss Cynthia Waring, has quite a number of aliases, and in certain circles has a reputation for landing the biggest fish in the pool. Then, after she's collected enough money, she tosses them back. You were her next victim, Mr. Barnes. And as for the unfortunate Mr. Clinton, being a newspaper man and gossip columnist, he ferreted out her little scheme and, in turn, was blackmailing Miss Waring. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I guess that just about puts the cap on that story of our little adventure at the estate of Rutherford Barnes. Miss Cynthia Waring was a very shrewd and fast-thinking young lady. She got one victim with a gun. She almost got Jameson and me at the old well when the gasoline exploded, all of which began with the first and most ingenious of the murders, the particularly cold-blooded murder of Betty Larson with that hat pin. And, Jameson, of course, we have you to thank for having discovered that most important bit of evidence, the pin itself.
Yes, Mr. Lanyard. And I must say, I got quite a lift out of that myself when I discovered it.
Now, Jameson, remember your promise. Suffice it to say, you discovered the pin. The hard way, I admit.
Oh, yes, sir. There's no doubt about that. The criminal would never have been stuck in the final analysis if I hadn't sat down and got myself stuck.
That will be all, Jameson. Oh. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
And so closes Murder Goes for a Swim, starring Warren William with Eric Blore. The first appearance of the Lone Wolf on the air, and tonight's tale of Suspense. This is your narrator, the man in black, who conveys to you Columbia's invitation to spend this half hour in suspense with us again next week, when Laird Kriegar will star in the suspense play, The Last Letter of Dr. Bronson, with a cast of 4 distinguished Hollywood players, Helen Vinson, Harold Huber, Ian Wolfe, and Theodore von Eltz. The producer of these broadcasts is William Spear, who, with Robert Louis Cheon, the guest director, Bernard Herrmann and Lucienne Marowick, conductor and composer, collaborated on tonight's Suspense.
This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Suspense. This is the Man in Black, here again to introduce Columbia's program, Suspense. Heading our starring Hollywood cast tonight is Mr. Laird Cregar, who will be seen shortly in the 20th Century Fox production of one of the great suspense stories of all time, The Lodger. Tonight, Mr. Cregar appears as a cynical gentleman who made an unusual bet with death. With Mr. Cregar as a cast of the screen's most distinguished and characteristic players, Miss Helen Vinson, Mr. Walter Kingsford, Mr. George Couloris, Mr. Harold Huber, and Mr. Ian Wolfe, here to bring us the suspense play called The Last Letter of Dr. Bronson. And so with the performance of Laird Cregar as he writes for us this last letter of Dr. Bronson, and with the performances of, in the order of their appearance, Walter Kingsford, Ian Wolfe, Harold Huber, Helen Vinson, and George Couloris, we again hope to keep you in Suspense.
My dear Dr. Moshe, forgive me if I dash this letter off rather hurriedly. There are but a very few minutes remaining for me. The few minutes between now and midnight. You have always protested my fascination with the subject of death. It irked you to hear me discuss the latest electrocution or hanging. I remember your sarcasm the day you found me staring down from the top of the Empire State Building, speculating on the thoughts of a man about to leap from that pinnacle. You alone, Moshe, know how this fascination led to my latest experiment. I should say, my last experiment. I promised you a complete account of it all. Here is that account. First of all, let me recall a conversation which we held here in my study a little over a year ago.
There you go again, Bronson. Death and murder. Really, you're unhealthy.
Please answer my question, Moshe. Why do men behave as they do? What keeps them from breaking loose? Why don't they kill one another as animals do?
Why, because they aren't animals.
But, my dear Moshe, being neither vegetable nor mineral, they must be animals.
Well, what I mean
that
is...
you do not know the answer. I do.
So?
I have been studying the question for some time, and I've concluded that there are 5 basic checks which serve to restrain man from murdering his fellow man.
Oh, really, Bronson?
The obvious corollary is that murder occurs only when some stronger drive overrides these 5 basic checks.
Oh, you make it sound very simple.
It is simple.
And what are these 5 basic checks?
Well, I'm not prepared to reveal the outcome of my study as yet. I must put my theory to the test.
That would seem to be a difficult undertaking.
Difficult, yes, but intriguing.
Oh, well, I take it you're about to embark upon another of your experiments.
Correct.
Bronson, why must you keep on? These studies invariably bring you some physical, or what is more dangerous, some nervous disaster.
And in turn, your handsome bill for putting me in shape to conduct the next.
Sooner or later, you will experiment yourself into a position beyond my power to aid you.
Let it be later, then. Meanwhile, I shall continue to pursue my sole interest in life.
And how do you propose to conduct this restraint from murder experiment?
Well, a murder is composed of 4 elements. The murderer, the motive, the opportunity, and the victim. My first step will be to select 5 men, each of whom will be restrained from murder by the particular check that I'm testing on him.
That's no easy task.
By no means. It will require an extensive search. But having found my men, I must then supply each with a motive. Greed, revenge, jealousy.
I see, and your next step must be to give each man an opportunity.
Precisely. An opportunity which precludes all checks but the one being tested.
Well, not knowing what your checks are, I can't help you there.
Well, that'll be relatively simple. And finally, I must supply an intended victim.
And you'll ask this victim to face 5 men, each standing to profit handsomely by murdering him?
Correct.
His only chance of survival being the correctness of your theory of checks in all 5 instances?
Yes.
And do you imagine you'll discover a man with such utter confidence in your reckoning?
There is one such man.
Who?
Myself.
Bronson, this is folly.
No, Moshe. I never hesitate to risk high stakes on a sure thing, not even my life.
Now, look here, Bronson. You're a doctor yourself. You told me to speak to you like a Dutch uncle. Now, as your physician,
I haven't
advise...
consulted my physician.
But you will take precautions, provide yourself for emergencies.
I tell you, there's no danger.
Oh, well, when will you begin your experiment?
Oh, I suppose in about... Well, why wait? Why don't we begin right now? Moshe, I invite you to kill me.
What?
There's a revolver right here in my desk, and I want you to take this revolver...
Oh, you're joking, Bronson. What possible motive could I have for murdering you?
Motive? Why, we're known to be associated rather closely in our work. You'll come naturally into my entire practice. I'll put that in writing.
Why, it's preposterous.
Why? Why won't you kill me then, Moshe?
Why, there are dozens of reasons. In the first place, I'd go to the electric chair for it.
Thank you, Dr. Moshe. You've given me an admirable illustration of the first and most obvious of the 5 checks in my theory. Man refrains from murdering his fellow being because he himself will be killed by law. Remember, Moshe? Remember how it began? That was more than a year ago. Yes, I've spent more than a year in selecting my other 4 subjects, because the checks I wanted them to prove were not so simple. In selecting my people, it was necessary that I cultivate the friendship of each, so that when the time should come to confront him with my proposition, I should be certain of how he would act. The first of my 4 potential murders was a clerk named Totten. Totten was badly in debt, his wife in the hospital about to undergo an expensive operation, and he was a deeply religious man. We went to church together on Sunday evenings at St. Luke's, right around the corner from my apartment. One Sunday evening after the service, I asked him to come to my apartment, and we talked as we walked along.
You know, Dr. Bronson, I was talking about you to my wife the other day, before they took her to the hospital. I was saying what a great comfort it was to be with you these Sunday nights.
Now, come, Mr. Totten, you embarrass me.
No, I mean it. In the world today, too many people seem to feel that they no longer need their God.
Yes, but their lives are void of the great thing you have in your faith.
The church is a great comfort to me. And I do need something to cling to in times like these.
Mr. Totten, you could make rather good use of $5,000, couldn't you?
It isn't like you to make fun of my poverty.
No, I'm quite sincere.
You know what even $100 would mean to me. And at present, more than ever.
Yes, with your wife's misfortune.
Oh, isn't this your apartment we're passing?
Oh, I want to go in the side way. We shall be unobserved.
Unobserved?
Oh, you'll understand presently. Please, come into my study. Now, here we are. And now if you'll take this chair opposite my desk.
Thank you.
Mr. Totten, you said that even $100 would be a great help to you. Here in my desk, I have this package containing $5,000.
Well, what could I do for you that would be worth all that money?
Let me explain. My doctor called on me yesterday, and he told me... well, to be quite frank with you, Mr. Totten, he said that I was slowly going mad.
Oh, no, that couldn't be.
I'm quite all right at present, but it's only a matter of time, and I'd rather not have to face it. I believe you can understand that.
But there must be something you can do, knowing in advance.
There is. And I want you to help me.
I don't understand.
Put on these gloves. Take them.
But why?
As soon as you have them on, I shall hand you this paper knife. Notice how very sharp it is. I grip it firmly, thus, and clearly impress my fingerprints on the handle. Finally, here on the desk, I am leaving this note, explaining that I have committed suicide.
Suicide?
When the knife is in your hand, I want you to drive it into my heart. Then you may leave by the same way we came in. You will be quite unnoticed, and with the $5,000 in your pocket.
You can't mean this.
But I do. You see, I don't have the nerve to... Well, I can't quite make the final move myself. You would greatly oblige me. And with the $5,000, you will be able to give your wife the treatment she needs. What do you say?
You can't die yet. You're not ready.
Would you have me wait until I've gone mad?
You can't take the matter of life and death into your own hands.
I am not asking you to pass judgment upon my actions. Whether I wish to live or die is my own concern, and my mind is resolved. Is that clear?
I'm sorry for you.
I'm merely asking you to do something for which I will pay you very well. You will, of course, be killing me. But if you could realize what life would be like for me otherwise...
I'm very sorry, but I can't oblige you.
If it's the law you fear...
No, it's not that. You seem to have arranged that perfectly.
Then what is it?
I'm an honest Christian, and I thought you were, Dr. Bronson. If you don't understand why I can't do this monstrous thing, I suggest you look up the 6th commandment. Good night.
So, Moshe, my second point was proved. Man refrains from killing because it is against his religious principles. The hands of the clock now read 15 minutes to midnight. 1/4 of an hour in which to complete this report. My third proposition called for an entirely different sort of man. In fact, the very reverse of Totten. A man who believed neither in heaven nor hell, and also a man of little intelligence. It required careful search. For a number of nights, I frequented the rougher districts of the city. At first, I had no luck. Then one night, I came upon my man very unexpectedly. I was walking along one of the darker streets. There was no one in view. He was slumped down beside an ash can. He'd been shot in the chest and left arm, severing an artery. He was bleeding profusely. I tore off his shirt and made a tourniquet for his arm. Oddly, no one came into the alley to investigate.
Never mind me. Get away.
Was this a gang shooting?
What do you think?
I think you're going to the hospital.
No. They'll blab to the cops.
Come on, I'll help you to your feet.
I ain't going.
You'll die, man, if you're not treated quickly.
I ain't going, I tell you. No cops gonna... No cops. They ain't gonna...
His name was Matt Doyle. I visited Doyle in the hospital almost every day. Several months later, I decided to put him to the test. I found Doyle in one of his hangouts and brought him to my apartment.
Hey, this sure is a fancy roost you got yourself, Doc.
I find it very pleasant. Have a cigarette?
Thanks.
Doyle, how many men have you killed? That's all right, Doyle. I understand. Now, suppose we get down to business.
Yeah. I've been wondering what you want me for.
I want you to do something for me, and I'm going to give you $5,000 to do it. Will you do what I ask you?
For $5,000? Spill it.
I want you to put on these gloves so there won't be any fingerprints. Then I'm going to hand you this knife, and you're going to kill me with it.
Huh?
I've arranged everything so it will appear to be suicide.
You nuts?
Not yet, but I will be before very long. That's why I want to die. All you have to do is stab me and slip out with this $5,000.
Is this on the level?
Absolutely.
This wad of dough is mine if I kill you?
That's right.
And nobody will know I done it?
No one.
These gloves is kind of big for me.
That's all right. They'll do.
Yeah. You want me to put on the other one?
It's safer.
Yeah, I guess it is. Gee.
What is it?
I was just thinking. $5,000. Oh, the boss has got to pay me more next. I never got... I'll skip it.
I want you to understand exactly what you're doing, Doyle. without any justifiable cause, merely for the sake of money, you are going to murder me. You understand that?
Yeah.
You've been hired to do this before?
Yeah. I suppose it don't hurt to talk about it now that you're
But you've never killed a friend, have you?
Oh, yeah, I have. Anyway, they was my pals till they got in the boss's way, but when the bosses say slip it to a mat, then they was just another job to me.
But there's a little difference in this case, Doyle. I saved your life.
Yeah. I don't know.
What?
I don't know. Nope, I can't do it.
But I thought you said that
Here, take these gloves.
Afraid of the law?
No.
What's the matter, then? Is it because I'm your friend?
That's more than that. I can't bump you off, even if you want it.
It would be an act of true friendship.
I ain't so sure.
When a cat has fits, you put it out of its misery, don't you? That's what I want. Oblivion. Peace.
Sorry, Doc, I ain't the guy. It's like you said. You saved my life, so that's that.
I'm sorry. I wish you could help me.
Oh, me too, but not that. Now, if you got some other punk you want took care of...
There's no one. Thanks just the same.
Oh, don't mention it.
There was my third proposition. Man will not kill fellow man if a sufficient degree of gratitude has been invoked. Even a professional killer and one of the lowest examples of human life, such as Doyle, could not bring himself to murder his benefactor. My next subject was altogether different in temperament. With Judith Ainsley, I used a special technique. I first encountered Judith Ainsley when I operated on Barrett Sheffield, the actor. You will recall that Sheffield was brought to the hospital with a lung abscess. As I prepared to do the rib resection, I noticed that the nurse standing beside me was greatly agitated.
Retractors, Doctor.
Thank you.
Doctor, do you think this is advisable?
What?
The dyspnea is more pronounced. Listen.
Miss Ainsley, another hemostat, please.
But he's getting blue. Doctor, do you think you're really sure this is cyanotic?
Miss Ainsley.
I'm sorry, Doctor, but it's... Doctor.
Quickly, caffeine. Quickly. Stethoscope.
Here it is.
That's that.
Yes. That.
Miss Ainsley, what's the matter with you? You've been acting strangely all through this operation.
You killed him. You shouldn't have gone ahead. You know that. I warned you.
I shall see to it, Miss Ainsley, that you are never assigned to one of my cases again. What's the matter with you, anyway? Have you never seen a pulmonary before? Or does it upset you to see a handsome actor like Barrett Sheffield die?
Yes, it did.
Oh?
Yes. We were going to be married next week.
If I ever saw hate, cold, undying hate, it was in that girl's eyes as she turned and left the operating room that day. I had made the most implacable enemy of my life. As I come to my third check, dear Moshe, it suddenly occurred to me that Judith Ainsley was the perfect subject. One day at the hospital, I inquired about Miss Ainsley and learned that she had done 4 years of medical and was now interning at Cedars of Lebanon in hope of picking up a resident fellowship. I went down to the hospital and sat in the doctor's lounge waiting for her. Presently, she came in with another intern. I stood up. She turned and looked at me. I saw again in her eyes that inexorable hate. She had never forgiven me for what she felt was my negligence in the death of the man she loved. I walked toward her.
Excuse me, please.
I see you remember me, Miss Ainsley.
Yes, will you excuse me,
Miss
please?
Ainsley, you may not believe this, but I've come here especially to talk to you today.
To talk to me, Dr. Bronson?
Yes. Come along with me, please. In this treatment room, please. We can talk privately.
Dr. Bronson, I don't think there could be anything you and I can say to each other.
Well, now, Miss Ainsley, that all depends. Sit down, won't you? Miss Ainsley...
Dr. Ainsley, if you please.
Oh, yes, of course. Doctor, I have a little proposition to make to you. First of all, there are 2 facts I'd like to be sure of. A, You are unable to set up your own practice because you don't have the money to get started. Is that right?
I don't see what business that is of yours, but it happens to be true.
Fine. Fact B. You still hate me and feel a strong desire to be revenged for the wrong which you consider I have done you.
Yes, I'm afraid that's true, Dr. Bronson.
Good.
Good?
Yes. You see, I want to pay someone to murder me. And I think you'd enjoy it more than anyone, and you need the money, too.
Dr. Bronson, I'm very busy. There's a patient in 302. Will you...
Wait a moment, Dr. Ainsley. I'm perfectly serious. Absolutely serious.
You want to die?
Yes. You see, I'm going mad. I can't face it. I wish to end my life immediately. You're smiling. Good, you're interested then.
You going mental, Doctor? Paresis?
Yes. Hopeless. I've been to 5 or 6 men about it.
Are you far gone? Hallucinations? Delusions of grandeur?
Yes, advanced stages. Agony.
Yes, it must be quite a temptation to get it over with. I wonder what I would do if it happened to me.
I want you to understand, Doctor, that I'm not asking you to perform a crude murder. This would look like a simple error, unavoidable. There would not be the slightest aspect of homicidal intent.
Really? That's most interesting, Doctor. Go on.
My heart. I've had considerable damage. Coronary occlusion. Had to spend some 6 weeks on my back. Just got up last week. Naturally, I was given digitalis.
Oh, I see, Doctor. You've been heavily digitalized, and if someone were to give you an injection of calcium gluconate, you would have an immediate heart block, dead within a few minutes.
Exactly. I must compliment you, Dr. Ainsley. You've learned a great deal. What a pity you can't have your own practice. And that, of course, reminds me.
Ah, another inducement?
Of course. I plan to pay you the sum of $5,000 for your professional services in this matter. And I think, unless times have changed greatly since I've been in practice myself, you ought to be able to set up handsomely with that.
My own practice. You'd better be careful, Doctor. You may tempt me a little bit too far.
I thought you'd find it an attractive proposition. It will be only an error. I will say that I'm feeling badly again, a recurrence of my pericardial pains. I'll go back to bed and ask that you be assigned to my case. The rest is simple. No one would ever expect you to know that I had been digitalized.
Still, if I were on my toes, I would naturally go over your case history before giving medication of any kind.
Well, yes, I suppose that's true. Professional people might think you had been a little lax. Might not have the highest regard for a new doctor who launched her career with such an unprofessional incident. Just a slight stain on your reputation for just a short while.
You're very clever, Doctor. You knew that would do it, didn't you? I want to thank you. You've done me a great service.
You mean you'll do it?
You've reminded me that nothing, no money, revenge, nothing, can be worth the slightest suspicion in a doctor's career. I've worked too hard. I've waited too long for my practice. When I get it, it won't be soiled by any single act of carelessness. They'll never say that I lost any patient because of an error in judgment. You see, I once knew a doctor who did.
There, Moshe, is my 4th check. Man, or in this case, woman, refrains from killing because of the fear of loss of reputation. Now I come to the testing of my 5th subject. A man who would not murder because he couldn't bear the sight of blood, much less the responsibility for shedding it. Laderne was my man, and I found him shortly after my search began. On that day, I saw him turn a ghastly white as a fast-moving car almost ran over a small dog which had run into the street. It wasn't a particularly frightening sight, but Laderne clutched at his throat and fell in a dead faint. I, of course, made it my business to become acquainted with him. I hadn't seen him for more than 4 months, until tonight. He's changed, I noticed, as he took his place at my desk. He's thinner. His dark eyes seem blacker than ever. Laderne, I want you to do me a favor. It's a little peculiar, but I'm perfectly sincere about it. Well? Circumstances require that my life be ended. But I can't quite reach the point to kill myself. I've arranged everything necessary to give the appearance of suicide. Here is the farewell note which I've written. I see. And here is the knife with which, apparently, I shall have killed myself. Notice I am carefully putting my fingerprints on it.
Yes.
Here are the gloves for you to wear. And here is $5,000 for you if you will drive this knife into my heart. What do you say?
You've arranged everything?
Everything.
No one knows I'm here?
No one.
And you want me to kill you?
Yes. Of course, it will be a bit messy. When a person is stabbed, his blood usually splurts out. But if you keep to one side, I don't think much will get on you.
Why do you want to die?
My doctor says that I'm going insane and that I haven't got much longer.
That's strange.
About going mad?
About him saying that you're going mad.
Oh, yes. It was a shock.
No, I don't mean that.
What do you mean?
That's the same thing they told me.
Oh, that's strange. They what?
They told me over a year ago that I was going mad. I only laughed at them.
Over a year? Well, do you... have you noticed any change?
Not much. At least no change for the worse.
Oh, that's good.
In fact, I'm really much better. I've been having fewer and fewer of those sick spells. You remember how I was the day that dog was almost run over?
You've gotten over those sick spells?
Haven't had one in 3 months.
Then there isn't any check.
Check? What check?
Nothing.
Oh. Well, this is going to be a pretty messy business. We might as well get it over with. Nice gloves you've got here. Nice and smooth on my hand.
Then you're going through with it?
Yes, can't let you down. Oh, never mind the knife. I've got my gun right here. Look, 38. Beauty, isn't it?
Yes. Then, if you'll give me back the knife...
No, I'll keep it for you. Yeah, I've used this gun a lot in the past 3 months. I've bumped off about 50 dogs.
You've done what?
Bronson, it's very interesting. I do it after midnight. It's fun watching the dogs. You have to know just where to hit them. It kills them instantly.
But the noise in here, aren't you afraid that somebody will...
The silencer, look. I don't like to wake people up when I kill their mutts.
But they'll find the bullet. They'll trace to your gun. They're sure to get you. In a suicide, the weapon stays right beside the body where it falls.
Suicide? Who says this is suicide? It's murder. I'm going to murder you. That's what you asked me to do.
Look here, Laderne, this has gone far enough. I was only joking. I don't want you to kill me.
5,000, eh? All here.
Listen to me, I was only joking.
You ready?
Laderne!
Shall I shoot now?
No, wait.
Do you want it through the heart or brain?
Not yet. Can't you wait just a little while?
Wait, what for?
Well, I've been conducting a little experiment. I'd like to write an account of it before I go.
Oh, what sort of an experiment?
I don't think you'd understand.
Oh, okay. I'll wait. Till midnight. Then I've got to go. There's a German police dog I've been wanting to get. A big, ugly brute. It'll be fun. Yes. I'll wait.
Thank you. The clock says 10 minutes past 11.
Yes. You've got 50 minutes. I'll wait by the window.
And so, Moshe, my experiment has ended. As you predicted, I have finally placed myself in a position beyond your power to aid. Strange, isn't it? That the one thing I didn't count on was the choosing of a subject who would not respond to my checks, who in fact had no checks at all, for insanity knows no restraint.
Bronson, midnight.
Oh, yes, Laderne, I'm hurrying. He is still at the window, and he is sure to shoot me. There is nothing I can do to say or stop him. I know that. I'm beginning to understand exactly what is going on in his twisted mind. I wonder why. Now I shall sign my name for the last time and lay down my pen. Then I shall look up and say, "All right, Laderne." All right, Laderne.
so closes the last letter of Dr. Bronson, tonight's tale of Suspense. In our Hollywood cast tonight, Laird Cregar played Dr. Bronson. Walter Kingsford played Dr. Mosier. Ian Wolfe was Mr. Totten. Harold Huber played Doyle. Helen Vinson was Nurse Ainsley. And George Coloris played Laderne. This is your narrator, the Man in Black, who conveys to you Columbia's invitation to spend this half hour in suspense with us again next week, when Robert Young will star in an adaptation of a story by James Thurber called A Friend to Alexander. The producer of these broadcasts is William Spear, who with Robert Louis Cheon, guest director, Richard Paulette Craik, author, Bud Gluskin and Lucien Marowik, conductor and composer, collaborated on tonight's Suspense.
This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
The ones he killed.
Well, as I told you, they were all between 19 and 23. Their heights were pretty much the same, too. They were all tall girls, around 5 feet 6 or 7, a little taller than you, and all dark-haired.
How did they wear their hair?
Why, they... Say, what is this?
Oh, nothing, darling. Just interested. How did they wear their hair?
Well, from what I remember, they wore it sort of loose and curly down the back.
I suppose each one had a resemblance to that long-dead love of his.
That's probably it. Well, anyway, that's how the record stands. And we're all waiting for it to happen again.
I see. Terry, I'd like to go home now.
I shouldn't have told you all that stuff. I've given you the creeps.
Oh, come on, Terry. Take me home.
Later, Jenny stands by the window in her room, looking out, thinking. She doesn't move for a long time. Then suddenly, quickly, she goes to her closet and begins to rummage through her many pairs of shoes. Carefully, she picks one pair with 3-inch heels.
5'6" or 7.
Then she walks quickly to the dresser, opens a drawer, takes out a comb, and starts redoing her hair.
Worn loose and curly down the back. Well, here we go. Edward.
Yes, miss?
Is the car ready?
Yes, Miss Virginia. I've been waiting for you.
Let's go before Mother sees me.
Your mother's been looking for you, miss.
I hope you didn't tell her.
No, Miss Virginia, I didn't.
Good. Come on, Edward.
Where do you wish to go, Miss Virginia?
The Starlight Dance Hall on Grove and 2nd Street.
The Starlight, miss?
Yes, Edward, that's the place.
I wouldn't go there unescorted if I were you, miss. It's one of the worst places in the city. Has a very bad reputation.
The Starlight Dance Hall, Edward.
Very good, miss. Very good.
Jenny walks slowly around the low lighted dance hall. A tall figure leaning against a pillar watches her intently as he idly smokes a cigarette. He doesn't seem to belong there. His clothes don't have the nattiness of a dance lover. Jenny pauses not far from him. Deliberately, he throws his cigarette on the floor, steps on it, and slowly walks over to her.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
You're not with anyone, are you?
Oh, no, I'm alone.
I thought so. I've been watching you all the time.
Have you?
I haven't seen you dance yet.
I don't know anyone here.
How about dancing with me, then?
All right.
Come on. Let's go out on the floor.
Do you come here often?
No. I never go to the same place twice.
You don't? Why?
I'm always looking for new faces. I'm restless.
Do you find the faces you're looking for?
Listen. Listen to that song. I like that. I like it very much.
Yes, it is a nice song.
You know, you remind me of someone I used to know. I'm trying to think who.
I do?
Yeah. You mind if we stop dancing and go over and get a drink?
No, let's go.
Well, then let's go down for some air. We can come back in a few minutes. Come on.
But...
We'll be back before the music starts.
Oh, you're hurting my arm.
Am I? I'm sorry. Fresh air smells good, doesn't it?
It's so dark here. Let's go back.
You're not scared, are you?
Oh, no, it's
Let's walk
just
down
that
this alley and back.
Oh, please.
No, you...
Let me go.
Thanks. That's a lovely necklace, beautiful.
Why, you're just a cheap...
Shut up.
All you wanted was my necklace.
So long, beautiful.
Look out.
What's the matter?
Behind you, look.
Holy... She's dead. A girl. Murdered.
With a white rosebud in her hand.
Well, Jenny, happened again last night. Just like the other times. The girl strangled in an alley and a white rose in her hand.
Any news of the killer?
No. He might just as well float through the air for all the trace he leaves.
He must have bought the flower upstairs in the dance hall. He must have been there earlier, bought it, and saved it
No,
until...
there was only one rose sold up there all night. And to a man who had a different girl with him. We had the flower girl at... How did you know that they sold flowers there? I didn't tell you.
Well, I must have read it somewhere.
You couldn't have. It wasn't in any of the papers. No details were given, just the statement that an unidentified body was found.
Well, I just imagined that they'd sell flowers in a place like that.
Well, I'm glad you don't go near those dance halls. Why, with this nut running around loose...
Don't bother about that. We'd better catch this killer. And fast.
Where do you get this wee stuff? To hear you talk, you'd think that you were on the case, too.
Wouldn't you think so? To hear me talk?
Again, Jenny tours the low dives, hunting for the White Rose Killer. Her search carries her to the waterfront. And as she walks past each dingy bar, she listens to the jukebox music. A little after midnight, she passes a dirty windowed saloon. The thin music
Well, now that I'm here, how about offering to buy a cup of coffee for the girl you're going to marry? If you can ever get up enough nerve to ask her.
Oh, it's no use, Jenny. I guess we better call it quits. I'm just a dick on the homicide squad, and that's all I'll ever be.
And I'm a rich debutante.
We don't belong together.
Oh, you've been reading too many of those romantic stories, Terry. What is it this time? What's wrong?
Yeah, they call him the White Rose Killer, and he's got to be caught. There's a general demotion coming on if he isn't, and that's all I need to get back into uniform.
Oh, don't worry, darling. You always look good in blue.
Yeah. Just to match the way I feel.
Tell me more about the White Rose Killer. What's he like?
That's the stumble. He could be anybody. No one's ever seen him except the dead, and they don't talk about it afterwards. Just slips out of the shadows and kills and then slips back again.
How many has he murdered?
4. And he's not through yet. It's going to be one of those chain things if he's allowed to keep on.
Are you sure it's always the same one?
Yeah, that part of it we're sure of. The same touch, the same way of operating every time.
How do you know that?
Well, it's a rose. A white rosebud. A death rose. Puts it into each victim's hand after he kills her.
Her?
Yep. It's always a woman. A young woman between 19 and 23.
What's behind it? Do you have any idea?
Well, I'm not sure. But here's what I figured out. You know what a rose stands for. Symbolically, I mean.
Why, yes, it's the flower of love. The white rose, the bud, has another meaning. Purity, loyalty, devotion, and especially it stands for a young girl.
Oh, that's right. And that's about the way I see it.
So maybe it's a double cross. Committed against our murderer by some young girl whom he worshipped and who betrayed his faith in her.
You ought to be a detective, not me.
Thanks, darling. I've got a very fine teacher.
Sweet. There's another thing. The murders were all committed near places where there was music, dance halls and cabarets and the like. There's a song that brings back the original shock that, gives him the final push over into the darkness. As far as we can figure out, it's the beer barrel polka.
Well, how does he commit the murder? Is it always the same way?
Always. Strangulation between the hands, with a thumb into the windpipe to keep his victims from crying out.
But isn't there anything else you know about him?
No, that's why it's so hopeless. He's insane, of course, but there's only this one phase to his insanity. Probably perfectly normal in appearance and behavior. You could pass him on the street and even know it. Well, it's only when he sees someone vaguely like the girl he loved and hears that song that the one defective wire in him is jangled and short circuit.
But, Terry, the flowers, don't the flowers tell you? He must get them somewhere you could trace.
Well, we don't know where he gets them. Maybe he steals them or...
Terry, what if you were the one to get him?
Well, it would mean a citation and a promotion.
And then all the things that stand between us would disappear? We could get married?
Well, the chances would be a lot better anyway. But what chance have I? Everyone in the department has been working their heads off for weeks and they've all failed.
Uh-huh. Terry, what were the girls like?
Touches her ear. She pauses and listens, her eyes alive for some sign, some indication of the person she's looking for. Then suddenly her body becomes rigid as her eyes fall upon a figure huddled in the shadows.
Someone's watching me.
Slowly she starts to walk up the street. Behind her, the heavy tread of a man's footsteps keep pace with hers. It's a quiet tread, unhurried but deliberate. For several blocks, it keeps the exact distance. Jenny starts to walk faster.
I've got to know if he's really following me.
The man quickens his pace. Jenny starts across the street. The man follows. She's sure now, sure that the man is following her. She fumbles for something in her purse. Her hand closes around a gun.
If he tries anything, I'll shoot.
You in any trouble, lady?
Oh, no, officer. It's all right. You scared him away.
Scared who away?
Oh, just a man who wanted to bring me flowers. That's all.
Well, he brought you one anyhow, lady.
What do you mean?
Right there on the ground, right by your feet. A white rose.
Coffee, Mabel.
Sure, coming right up.
Here you are. Terry.
Hello, Jenny. Sit down.
Thank you.
Say, what's the matter with you?
Look, darling, read the gossip column in this paper.
What daughter of a socially prominent family is that way about a detective and waits for him outside the station house in her limousine every night? Private chauffeur and all. But Mama says no. That's not so funny.
Oh, they held a big family war council over me just now. Indian powwow, feathered headdress and everything.
They did, huh? Well, what'd they decide?
Oh, I was asked to give my word that I wouldn't see you anymore. I refused, of course, so I'm to be exiled.
Where to?
Our summer home. It's just a few hours out of town, but I'll be there all by myself, just with Mrs. Crosby, the housekeeper.
Oh, maybe they're right. Why don't you listen to them?
Are you on their side, too?
No. When are you leaving?
Right away. Edwards is driving me out. I just slipped out to let you know. Here's the address and phone number of the place in case you want to reach me. Don't lose it.
I won't.
Well, what's new and exciting about the White Rose Killer?
Our famous lover of flowers? We're still trying to track him down. I suppose I'll go looking for him at the flower show that's just opened.
Oh, a flower show just opened?
Yeah.
Well, goodbye now. I'll be seeing you. What,
Suspense. again to introduce Columbia's program, Suspense. Our star this evening is Miss Maureen O'Hara, whom you've seen rise to stardom in Hollywood within the short space of a year. Her performances in the 20th Century Fox production, How Green Was My Valley, then more recently in The Immortal Sergeant, and now currently in the RKO production, This Land Is Mine, have given her an enviable place in the ranks of America's new film favorites. Miss O'Hara makes her first appearance on our Suspense stage tonight as the heroine of A Study in Homicidal Mania, The White Rose Murders by Cornell Woolridge, which is tonight's tale of suspense. He stood there waiting. He knew that presently they would come out of the second-rate dance hall, out into the dimly lit street. He listened a while and smiled as the orchestra played that tune inside. And then they came out, the two girls, and still he waited, close enough to hear what they were saying.
Well, I'll see you at the office tomorrow, Sally.
Oh, I don't know how I'll get up. It's after 1 o'clock. 6 hours sleep. Oh, I'll be dead tomorrow.
Me too. Oh, gosh. I gotta have at least 8 hours or I'm no good at all.
I wish I had someone to walk me to the bus. It's 4 long blocks.
I'll walk you down, Sally.
Oh, don't bother. We go in different directions.
It's no trouble. Really, I don't mind.
Really, it's not necessary.
Come on.
In the narrow alley that divides the dance hall from an ugly office building, he stood smiling. Just a little inside the alley, he stood stiffly against the wall, his head back, eyes closed, arms straight down, and in his left hand, a white rose.
Well, all right then, Sally. Good night.
Good night, Joan. See you in the morning. Oh, I hope I don't have to wait long for the bus. Who are you? Keep away. Keep away from me. Let me go. Let me go.
The girl is dead. Tenderly, the figure straightens her hair and gently places the limp body on the ground. Then he opens her clenched fist, and carefully, so that the thorns will not bruise her flesh, he places in her hand the white rosebud.
Pardon me, my good man. Is it true that you are the famous detective Terence Riley?
Huh? Oh, Jenny. I didn't see you come in.